In this video, I will talk about how to ground your model with your specific data. Before talking about how to do it, let me quickly talk about why do we need to ground the large language models. So I'm in ai.azure.com in AI Studio, and here in the playground, I have set up a chatbot which helps architects and people who make, say, buildings and houses understand building regulations. Now, if I ask the model a question, say, what are the safety requirements for installing cladding in a building, I get a response. And in the response, the model refers to a document, and I see this is only this document here, which is an official document from from the government, and then it tells me how to safely install it. Now, while the answer looks authentic and reasonable, the problem with this answer is I don't really know from where it is picking all this information. So, to create more trust in the answers, I can ask the model to pick up information only from specific trusted sources. For example, I know that the government issues these official documents when it comes to building regulations. So if I want my model to pick information only from these sources, I can ground it, or in another means, I can add my data and I can ask the model to give more importance to my data versus the previous knowledge or information on which it was trained. Before I tell you how to do it, let's see what the change looks like. So in this video, again in the AI Studio, I have the same system message that the model helps architects and people who make buildings, find regulations or information about regulations. And here, when I ask it that what are the requirements for installing cladding, I get an answer, but the difference is that this answer is picked only from the documents I provided. If I go to add your data, you can see that I have created an index, and this index actually searches these two documents and gives the answer based on the information inside these documents. So it's a much more trustworthy way to make sure that the answer which your model is providing is based on the sources which you trust more. So hope you can see the value of grounding. Let me now show you how to ground a model with your data. I am in AI Studio. I have logged in, and I will create. I go to. I create. I think I can go to build, and I can create a new project. In the new project, I can either create a new AI source where I provide the name, the resource group, subscription, etc., and or I can use an existing resource. I already have an existing resource, so I'm going to create my project in that. Let me call this project grounding demo, and I will use one of my previous resources or AI resources I had created earlier. Once the project has been created, I will start putting data into this model. So let's give it a few minutes. The project has been created. In my deployments, there is no model yet. So I go to deployments and I create a new deployment. Oh, actually, there are some previous ones. So let me do that, use them. So in this project, I have two deployments. So I have deployed a GPT-4 model, and I've also deployed an embedding model. When we ground the model with the data, we need embedding as well. So you will need the embedding model as well. Once these two have been deployed, if you don't know how to do that, just go to create, pick the model you want to deploy, and just say confirm. Once they are deployed, I go to playground, In the playground, I can first set up my system message. So, or yeah, let me just do this one. So this is the persona of my bot that it's going to help with building regulations. Then I go to add your data, and then I can add the sources of data I want to ground on. When you go to data sources, you have three options. You can upload files. What this essentially does is when you upload files from your local machine, it's going to put them in blob storage. If you already have files in the blob storage, you can do that. You can use them. For example, I have uh, I have files already in my blob storage. Let me show where they are. So this is my storage account, and if I go to storage browser and blob container and built-in regs, I already have these two files here. Or if there is already a search index available which you want the model to use for grounding, you can pick that as well. I'll pick a blob storage because I already have my data there. Then I select my subscription. This is the blob storage I want to use. The files are in this one. Then in the container, I select built-in regs. I'm basically pointing to this location here, this one. And then I don't have an AI search resource, so I would need to create that. So you go to create new AI search resource. You wouldn't have to do this if you were using an existing AI search. This is my subscription. Let me put it in my existing resource group. Let me call it building regs search resource, and let me put it in UK South, and I say create. Give it a few minutes. So my search resource has been created. I can go back to my previous playground, and I can refresh. Hopefully I'll see it here. I see building. I'll see the search resource here. Let me call it, give the index a name now. So building reg index. Because this document will not change frequently, I just need to index once. I can add vector search, and this is where we use the embedding model which we had deployed earlier. And I acknowledge that I'm gonna consider cost for using it. Now there are two types of search options available to you: vector and keyword. Which is called hybrid. I'm gonna use vector and keyword, and then I just start the process. So what's happening at the moment is in the background, an index is being created using the documents which are provided from the blob storage. This process could take some time based on the size of the documents, because the index is going through the entire document. So give it a few minutes. The indexing process has finished. I can see that the index is now part of this playground. And if I now go and ask a question, for example, what are the building regs for cladding, I should see a response which picks information from this index, or in other words, the documents I want the model to use. You might find sometimes that things are slow. It might look as if the model is not responding. Just look for this button here. If it's a square, that means the model is still generating the information or answers. So I've started getting some response. It's still working because I see this still, it's still square. And I can, while it's still generating the answers, I can already see that the model is also mentioning the references or the sources from which it is picking up this information. Once the answer is complete, I will be able to click on those on these references and see what these are. So the square is disappeared. That means the answer is complete. If I look into references, I can see that this model, so the answer was based on this document. And if I click on the document, it starts referring from which part of the document the answer was picked. So that's one thing I wanted to show. Another thing I can quickly show is, if you remember previously, I mentioned that when you ground your data, you can use existing files or you can use an existing search. So let me show you what existing search means. If I go again to ai.azure.com or AI Studio, and if I create a new project, another new project, let me call it ground 2, and again use the same resource. So what I'm trying to show is that the index which was created for uh, this application built-in rec2, because I already have an index now, if I need to create another application, I don't need to do indexing again. I can just use the previously created index for the new application. So quickly check that the models are deployed, which should be, if I now go to playground and I again set the persona, apply changes, and if I now want to add data and add data source, I can now use a previous search, and as you can see, I can use the same building reg index which I had created here. So that's one way, another way by which you can bring in existing search indexes into the model. That's all I want to show. Thank you so much for watching.